I don't even know where to start, but this video is about to be absolutely insane. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Welcome home, Rep Pack. Marcus here, and welcome to Comfort Cartoons. This is a wild video. I'm gonna try my best to showcase everything the best that I can, but today, guys, I am going to be sharing with you some stuff that has never been seen before, that has never seen the face of the internet. All of this stuff has been behind lock and key in the vault of Hanna-Barbera, Disney, and of course and especially Nickelodeon. I recently came into the ownership of an abundance of production material from those three networks through different circumstances, some through auctions, some through a random circumstantial hunt at the flea market from some amazing friends, and some through a connection that I met up on Facebook Marketplace from two employees that worked at Nickelodeon. And I will be showcasing all of this, but some information that might help in the understanding of this video comes from a collaboration that I recently did with L Supersonic Q. Many of you guys have probably already seen his videos before, but he's one of the biggest voices in the lost media category here on YouTube or on the internet in general. But in that collaboration, I covered this mostly, and this is a storyboard, a pitch storyboard for one of my favorite shows in the world, Fairly OddParents. And this is for the episode Channel Chasers. And a pitch storyboard is essentially the first ever draft, the conceptual idea of what an episode is going to look like before it gets to final production. They use the pitch storyboard with the writers, the storyboard artists, and they get the idea of the episode together and then pitch it to the creators of the show, the executives at Nickelodeon, and then they give it the green light or the red light, meaning you can't make it before any mass amount of money is spent in making it to the final product that you see on TV. But in that process, some stuff gets cut that never gets to see the light of day. And in this episode here, Channel Chasers, if you're a Fairly OddParents fan, you already know Timmy goes through several different TV stations trying to escape his reality and also Vicky, who was following shortly behind him. And he goes into shows like Scooby-Doo.
Their parents let them drive around solving mysteries with a talking dog.
Put the shizzle in the fudge nizzle, y'all.
Blue's Clues.
A Clint hint? Now we have a clue as to where Vicky might be!
And even Dragon Ball Z. But there was one other channel that he actually went to that featured a certain special sponge that was cut for a variety of different reasons that I theorize on. But as I said, you get to see that broken down a lot better in that collaboration. But taking a look here, we are going to look at Channel Chasers first and everything that I got in terms of Fairly OddParents. So I didn't get that much for Fairly OddParents. That is all right here. And this stuff came from the flea market. So big shout out to my man Curtis and also Blake. They actually were the ones that initially found this in a storage locker. Me being the Nickelodeon fan that I am, they gave me the opportunity to purchase all of it from them. I had no clue exactly what was going to be in this, if all the stuff was already public or that any cut content was going to be in there. But I'm so glad that I was able to pick it up so I could really analyze everything and be able to share everything with you guys. So in terms of Fairly OddParents, this is the stuff that I found. So first off here, you guys will see some close-up shots of everything. These right here are the specification sheets for many of the background characters in Fairly OddParents, which is so cool to see. Again, this stuff has never been seen to the public. These are the assets that they would use when creating the show Fairly OddParents to make sure that no matter what artists were working on the episodes, characters stayed consistent throughout them. So there's so many different characters that you can see in these. These are all background characters, people that could have been at Timmy's school. You can even see some of the kids from Quebec in the Christmas episodes. They have some of the adults that you might see at the stores or like at Timmy's school. They even have some of them for the fairies here. So these are some of the background fairies you might have seen in Fairy World or in Fairly Idol or something like that. Some of the different fairy episodes. They even have some for the anti-fairies. So you can see this sheet right here says male anti-fairy. So these are all the fairies that you would have seen in the anti-world. So unbelievable stuff here again, that just seeing this format, seeing the pun intended, the magic behind all this is unbelievable. And then if they had a certain character they were looking, so let's just say they were working on a scene that was international, they might need some international background background character. So they would go to the International Kids sheet, and they have all the different kids from different nations that they could have used in the backgrounds. Or if they needed a little girl or a teenage girl, they would go to a girl sheet and find all of the different assets they could use for a girl character. Or if they need somebody a little older, they could use a woman, and they would have all the different women available as well too. So that's kind of how they would utilize it and figure out which characters were going to go where and keep the show and the world consistent. And these actually, all of these character specifications, I actually got from that Facebook connection, like I said, through 2 employees that actually work at Nickelodeon. So you guys got to see some close-ups of all of that stuff there. Unbelievable stuff. And most of these assets, guys, they were thrown away. This stuff was not meant to be kept. These are all the Xerox that were used in the studio. Many of the originals for this stuff were tossed out. In some cases, these prints may be the only forms of them that exist, even maybe within Nickelodeon's vault without us knowing. So I'm so glad to be able to have them and be able to archive them here in the collection and with you guys here on the internet. But in the Channel Chasers one, I did cover it in that collaboration, like I said, but not in full. So this is actually not the entire episode of Channel Chaser. I got super lucky that the only Fairly OddParents in this entire container here was actually just the Act 4 of Channel Chaser. So this is the last part. You can see right here where it says Act 4. This was just the ending of Channel Chasers, and that so happened to have that deleted segment of Fairly OddParents kind of crossing over with SpongeBob. And if you guys are on my Patreon or a member here on YouTube, you guys will have access of a deeper dive into that section. So this video is already going to be way too long, so if you guys are on Patreon, like I said, or a member, you guys will see a little deeper dive into that section coming up in a video soon. But my storyboard essentially starts right when he gets into Batman, and I actually am not sure which scene was right before this. Ryan, we'll play what segment or what channel was Timmy in right before this Batman section.
Yeah, it's a chase scene.
But what I think is really interesting is being that these are the cut versions of it. You can see they stamped every section that was meant to be cut from the episode. And from my review, 80% of them were cut. And in some cases, I think the animators just did it anyway. But 80% of them, if it has a cut stamp, it did get cut from the episode for one reason or another. So you can see right here, they use like a bat signal, very similar to Batman's in the show. And they put a cut over here. So that way the scene would start just kind of panning over the city and the manor to not elicit too much of a parody or too much of a grab at Batman, being that of course it is a copyrighted character of Warner Brothers. And if you look at the notes in the storyboard, they actually distinctly say Batman-inspired universe night, Blackbird signal light comes on, then pan left to the moonlit mansion. So they use the word Batman that they would never use in the episode because of so much legal trouble. But of course, this was made to be used internally. Therefore, they were able to use that language. So I will scan through some of the pages so you guys can get a look at basically the vibe for the storyboards kind of is throughout them. And you'll also see those cut stamps along the top showing you guys what segments might have been cut. And some of them are for time's sake, and some of them you might notice are for a particular reason. But like I said, there are so many pages that I could share, but it would be way too long of a video, so I'm just going to show you some of my favorite shots from these storyboards. Some of my favorite shots from this one include this scene right here where Timmy fights Future Guy, aka Future Timmy, and you can see this segment was meant to be a moving shot, an action scene of them kind of grappling with each other, and it's in one segment, so that way you can see that it's a moving shot, start to stop, so that way the person that's going to finally animate it can kind of know that it's supposed to be one kind of moving shot and not cuts in between them. And seeing how that actually works is such a cool insight, and it's such an awesome scene. But unfortunately, it looks like this entire roll segment here was actually cut from the episode. Again, probably for time's sake. But once we get past the Batman scene, that's actually where we get into some of the scenes with Timmy's parents, and they actually get their first ever note from Deep Toot.
Signed,
Deep Toot?
And then after that, we actually get to see Timmy go into a very familiar underwater location, which again, you'll get to see better in that collaboration video. I don't want to spoil it. Or you can also check out the more deep dive on my Patreon or also through my YouTube memberships. I do want to add that over there just as a big thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon and the members here on YouTube. Of course, I am sharing just about everything with you guys already, but I do want to give that little extra special token to those people that have taken that extra step to support me even further, being financially to help keep this show going. Okay, so next up, this is for a show called Catscratch. And Catscratch for me is a show that I watched quite a bit as a kid, but it's more of like a mascot of this era of Nickelodeon. The mid 2000s, 2004 to like 2008, Nickelodeon for me has some of my best memories because I feel like that was really when Nickelodeon was at its peak. You had shows like Danny Phantom, Fairly OddParents, Jimmy Neutron, SpongeBob, all on at the same time, and you had some new shows coming out, like for example, Catscratch. And this is actually some production stuff for Catscratch. And in particular, I don't even know, again, in some cases, this might not even be around in its original context or original form. So this could be the only version of this still available, if not vaulted by Nickelodeon. And this is actually the pilot, the pitch pilot for Catscratch to become a show. And this was also another item that I picked up from that couple that actually worked at Nickelodeon. So when pitching the show, they actually handed out this sheet of paper right here to some of the different executives and people that were reviewing the show to take the show on as a show on Nickelodeon or to pass on it, and they would have to go pitch that show to a Cartoon Network, a Disney, or some other network in hopes of somebody picking the show up. So this here gives you a brief description of what the show Catscratch was essentially supposed to be about. So then it kind of starts to describe all the different characters, meets the star of our show here, and it has Mr. Blick, it has Gordon, Waffle, and it has descriptions of those characters, breakdowns of what they do and what they want, which are two keys that you want to elicit with their characters to make them connect with an audience, is seeing their motivation. So you see that with all the different characters, and then we get into the storyboards themselves for the pitch. This right here is some of the original sketching for the promotional images for Catscratch. You guys can see all the penciled in area right there in the middle. That was actually from an edit they made on the original shot, but this was the shot they used to promote Catscratch. Kind of like when you go on Netflix and you see those little thumbnails for the show. This was essentially the image they had designed to represent Catscratch in the Up Next on Nick or any kind of ads they put online, newspaper, stuff like that. This was the shot they wanted to represent the show. And then before we get into the storyboard, they give you the character sizing again, so it has all the characters there, so that way you get an idea of their sizing. And I think that what we got for Fairly OddParents was just some of the secondary characters and stuff like that, so their sizing and that stuff doesn't really, it's not as important as some of your key characters that are going to be on screen with each other a lot. A background character being slightly smaller or slightly bigger, it isn't going to be that noticeable to the average viewer, whereas Mr. Blick next to Kimberly, two characters that are very notable in Catscratch. If randomly Mr. Blick is significantly taller or significantly shorter, it will be noticeable. So these specifications I noticed are way more detailed because they are the main characters. So you get to see Mr. Blick from different angles, kind of showing what he should look like at that angle. If they're creating the scene and he is on this direction, he should look like this. If he's facing backward, he should look like this. If he's facing the other direction, he should look like this. There's even examples of all the different facial expressions that he might make to, again, keep all of the artwork consistent. So every artist that is drawing Mr. Blick, his smile looks the same for every single version. And I'm using Mr. Blick here for the reference, but you will see that for all the characters. Here's some more of those expressions right there as well too. Here's some examples of him holding objects that of course could be interchanged with different things depending on the scene. And then here's even different hand gestures to show how he might express himself using his hands. So then after that, we get into the actual storyboard itself for the episode. So this is the original storyboard for the pilot, a literal piece of Nickelodeon history, the first ever inception of the Catscratch show, what the pilot was supposed to look like with all of its cuts and bruises, stuff that was taken out, stuff that was changed. This was the first ever draft of that, and it is hard to express how crazy it is to see such an early form of the episode and to see what has changed, see all the different nuances and what they were thinking as they did it with the different notes along the bottom of the pages. And this storyboard is the entire episode, so I will show you guys some close-up shots of different stuff and some of my favorite scenes from these storyboards from Catscratch, so you guys can kind of see the style of the storyboard versus the regular episode, as well as get an idea of some of the awesome shots that are contained within it. So this is truly incredible to have the entire pilot here that was pitched to Nickelodeon, the original showcase image, as well as the original breakdown of the show that was handed out on that day. The person I got this from was actually sitting there in the room when this was pitched to Nickelodeon, and this is that paper. So unbelievable piece of history to have here in the cavern, and I am truly honored to be able to hold this in the collection. But that is not it it. We're still going, guys. This is gonna be a long video, and it is going to be a whirlwind of insanity. Okay, so it's actually the next day. I had to separate this. I had to do my live stream on Whatnot, so make sure you guys go check that out. Link is down below in the description. We're gonna be giving away some excess stuff from some of this production material, and maybe we'll even be auctioning off some stuff. Of course, I am not gonna separate any of the complete episodes, just stuff that I have that are like single pages or like partial pieces of an episode, stuff like that, but there's still some incredible stuff. So again, that information will be down below. You get $15 for free when you sign up for Whatnot. And you can also enter in on all the giveaways that I do every single week for free. Shipping's free and everything. There's no catch to it. All you have to do is sign up, guys. Links down below. So the first episode we're going to be covering is Pirate Radio. An incredible episode. And there are some shots in this that are just unbelievable. And there's so much stuff that they actually cut from the episode. Again, I would love to cover every single thing that was cut. Maybe what I'll do one day in life, I would love to take each of these episodes and do like a video over on my archive channel, just comparing the storyboard to the actual official episode, showcasing to you guys some of the stuff that's missing, as well as do my own little animatic, I guess, and like kind of have the dialogue matching the storyboards, similar to like what you would see in those DVD behind the scenes. But to set the tone here, Pirate Doctor is an episode with the pirate that is young beyond me years. I mean, young beyond his years. That is Youngblood. Youngblood essentially comes out of the ghost world in order to, like, from what I remember, this is all based off my memory, to recruit people to become part of his ghostly crew and expand his fleet of ships. And he works with Ember McLean. Yes, the Ember McLean.
What, is the music career going so poorly you've had to pick up babysitting jobs on the side?
Who has the dopest pirate outfit ever in this episode. But from what I looked through here, I did not see the scene with Ember McLean in here, so I don't know if that was just not originally a part of this Pirate Radio script, but she was kind of the radio in the Pirate Radio because Ember actually used the radio in order to submit signals to actually brainwash the adults in the episode, to use them as like guinea pigs to charge up all of Youngblood's ships. But looking through here, there are some unbelievable shots. So of course the episode starts off with them looking up into the stars while listening to some music, and of course Youngblood and his ship arrives. And I have the shots of when the ship actually arrives, and they are beautiful. You guys are seeing some of the shots right now kind of leading up to that, the sky shots in space, them using the telescope. But of course, as they're doing that, Danny's ghost senses go off, and you get to see the rise of Youngblood's ship. And for those of you guys that know me, you already know this is probably my favorite storyboard out of all of these. I love anything that has a nautical theme, and I love the paranormal. I love ghosts. I love Danny Phantom. I love alternate world that could be possibly living alongside ours. It's so intriguing. So putting those two things, the nautical aspect and the ghost realm together, like, it couldn't be better. So when I saw these shots, I was like, I need to get these framed in my house, and my goodness, is it beautiful. And then you also get to see the pirates all jumping down from their ship just like this. And because Danny Phantom is a more action-based series, you get a lot of these widescreen shots that really show the motion and actions of the different characters. Like, for example, this pirate here swinging his sword. And the pages that I took out just for now, and I'm gonna put them back in there because they are all numbered, are these right here. This unbelievable shot, front shot of Youngblood's ship with Danny, Sam, and Tucker all at the bottom looking up at them. It literally looks like a movie poster. It is unbelievable, the level of detail that they went into for a storyboard. These were just references for the animators to be able to make them look as similar to what they were thinking as possible. So the fact they went so detailed on these is just incredible to me. I'm gonna try to make like my own animatic poster with just these 4 pages. So I have the ship shot I showed you, then I have this shot of the pirates jumping down from the ship, then we have them landing right in front of Sam, Tucker, and Danny, just as we saw them in front of the ship, and then we have Danny Phantom, of course, transforming into Danny Phantom, of course, as well. So then it'll kind of end there. I think that would just be a really cool, like, connectable story poster, and I just love, like I said, that the pirate aspect of it. I'm gonna have to get my own version of these. These will always stay the original copies, and they will stay in this storyboard, but I am going to make my own copy of just these ones for that poster. But like I said, I don't see anything with Ember in here yet. I'm gonna go through it one more time actually, but I'll get some of the other shots out of here. Again, guys, I kind of give you the summary of the episode essentially. That's what it's about. And if I can find any other like really, really good shots that I think are notable, I will let you know. As well as I'll give you some examples of some of the stuff that was cut that wasn't for time and just because maybe they were just kind of a weird shot to put there in the first place. And for those of you guys that aren't big into the Danny Phantom fan base, there is kind of a subculture, I guess like what you'd call in the anime genre, a waifu culture around Danny Phantom's mom. And I think because of sometimes, and same thing with a lot of Butch Hartman shows, they put some images in there that could kind of elicit and kind of lend themselves to especially prepubescent minds that are, you know, developing and stuff, and maybe, you know, spark some curiosities for some people. And there was a lot of shots, like for example this one here with Miss Fenton's chest just like right up front, and you can see that there is a stamp above it that was cut. So they actually cut this from the actual episode. And the text says, of course, close up on Maddie lowering into her seat. Like they could have just showed this part right here, like her just sitting down. You could obviously tell she was sitting down. They didn't have to add this shot here, but they definitely did. And to me, that just kind of like, I think some stuff in the shows are debatable. Some stuff is more obvious, but stuff like this just makes me see how aware they were, I think, on some of the stuff. And again, you might be thinking I'm just reaching with this shot, but I'm showing you one of the more tame ones because this is a YouTube video and I kind of try to keep this channel PG, but I do want to give you guys as much of the tea, I guess, on these as I can. There's also another shot in there where Danny has text next to him that says, "Someone please kill me," which I think that's funny. You know what I mean? Like he's already a ghost, kind of technically. So, you know, I get the humor on that joke, but I can see why they cut it too. I think that if you were just to see that clip, like if you to hear Danny say that out of context, it might not sound that good, but it's obviously a play on the fact that he is in some ways already half dead. Okay, so there's so many more in this, and I actually, wait a minute, actually, let's see here. So this is Act 1. There should be an Act 2 to this as well, too. So if Ember was actually in here, and maybe it's like in the last couple pages, and I just didn't notice it. So here's them on the radio. Yes, so here it is, actually. You know when you're flipping through the pages, it's like, you don't almost see the first ones or like the last ones as you're just going like, you know, rippling through the pages. And I did not see these. So these are the last 4 pages of it. We actually get the appearance of Ember McLean. So you have the pirate ship there and it says loud ethereal music. And dude, that's such a sick shot. That's so dope. Oh my gosh. Pan up on pirate ship, starts on Ember's right boot and pans up to reveal her face. And you have the shot of Ember McLean on top of Youngblood's ship in her pirate outfit. That is freaking cold. I'm not gonna lie, that's a dope freaking shot right there. And then we get to see her and Danny, you know, Danny's reaction to realizing that, you know, they both are working together on this. And I mean, obviously, actually those shots were cut. You can see they were stamped cut right here. But if you want to know why Youngblood and Ember work together, because they both hate adults.
Hate them!
And then literally, guys, that was the last page here. So I barely got any content that had Ember in it, but at least enough. So we got 3 pages that have Ember on there. Possibly the #1 most popular Danny Phantom villain, maybe outside of Vlad Plasmius. So really cool that at least we got some Ember content in there, because I don't think any of the other stuff does, but we have some other amazing villains. And I'm not going to cover them all as deep as that one. That was the first Danny Phantom one. So to kind of get into the Danny Phantom vibe and aspect, I wanted to get deep into that one, being one of my favorites too. So let's check out some of the rest, and then we're gonna move on to some of the other stuff. Okay, so the next one up here is What You Won. This is actually in season 1, somewhere mid-season. So in the episode, Tucker and Danny go to an antique market. They actually drop this item. It releases the ghost Desiree, and throughout the entire episode, whatever people wish for, it comes true essentially. So the most notable wish I can remember for some reason is when Paulina became essentially Hello Kitty. But we'll take a look at this one, guys. I'll add a couple shots in there for you. We do get to see also Tucker, because Tucker wishes to have powers or to be powerful, much like Danny. And also, there's some other interesting stuff in here. I'll actually put one right here because I don't know where they all are. There's some random ones throughout all of these storyboards. But here's one in particular that I see right away. And this is actually a note from Butch Hartman in the actual storyboard. So we have this amazing shot of Danny here dodging all of the different energy balls flying towards him. And you can see all of them are hitting the walls and also the roof right about here. And there's a note right here and it says, "But might be cool if the holes left a DX afterglow," being like essentially once the holes, like once they get shot, the holes kind of leave like a little bit of a glow, kind of like metal gets heated up super hot, it like turns red for a bit, and it takes a little bit of time before that red simmers back down to its normal color. So to kind of leave that, the traces of that following the blast as they happen. And I gotta say, Butch, that was a really, really cool idea because it looked fantastic. But this beautiful shot of Danny is just wonderful. So you can kind of see that process of it too. So like the storyboard artist, the director kind of put the whole story together, and then Butch kind of goes through it and kind of gives the final say on what's going in, how to make it look a little better, and really put the show towards its final steps of production. But I just wanted to show you that note before we moved on through here. So we'll take a look at some of the other shots. We definitely got to find a really cool shot of Desiree. There's a ton. Okay, so here's actually an incredible shot of Desiree transforming from coming out of the conduit object. You see her in the middle here looking more dead than ever, essentially looking very zombified, almost like that is what her corpse could possibly look like, and then transforming into her full energy ghost form. Just a really creepy shot there. I love it though. The horror aspects mixed with animation and comedy, like how could you go wrong? And one thing I will notice about this is also a pitch board as well too. This episode has less cuts than almost any other storyboard that I went through. So there are still some, but comparatively to some of the other episodes, it seemed like they were pretty straightforward about this one and didn't have a lot of stuff they want to remove. Here's another really cool shot of Desiree turning her arm into a rope here, and it pans across all three of the panels there. And then you have the connective shot there where Danny actually gets caught up in that rope. So here's when Danny actually starts fighting that evil version of Tucker. You can see him kind of taunting Tucker there. Very cool shots up until Tucker actually tries to tackle him, and you get to see that demon form of Tucker there, and then that actually transitions us into a commercial. I tried to insert an ad there. I don't think it went up though. But when the next one does, you know, just watch it for a little bit, huh? Another thing I noticed throughout the storyboards is that I think they got tired of drawing the Fenton Works building. Here's it on screen. Pretty complicated, really beautiful, but like detailed building. So I noticed they just kind of had like a placeholder picture. They would kind of put like a little picture over it, like glue it on there essentially in the storyboards when the Fenton Tower was supposed to be there, just to avoid having to draw it all every single time. And I totally get that. Emergency announcement. This is a cartoon red alert. Cartoon red alert. I am giving away some exclusive production material for Scooby-Doo. I am going to be giving away an original sketch used of Shaggy Rogers, as well as an original sketch used of Scooby-Doo from 1971 in the production of the new Scooby-Doo movies. You can own literal pieces of cartoon history, and I am giving them away for free over on my Whatnot stream, guys. The link is down below. Make sure you click my link when you sign up. You get $20 for free if you want to pick up anything on Whatnot during my streams, anybody's streams. We have so much fun over there. But you do not have to buy anything. You can sign up for free. You can come to the show for free. You can enter the show. You can enter the giveaway for free. And I also am forgetting one more thing. Oh, it's free shipping too. Free! All you have to do is go check it out, guys, and make sure you're there live for my upcoming streams, and you could win one of these, guys. You would not believe how many people have won multiple times. We have one guy on our stream that's won 13 different times, different giveaways. That's how good the odds are, guys. Do not miss an opportunity like this. It's an easy W. Come check it out. Make sure you follow my page and you guys stay posted for those streams. So this one I actually have the full episode of. There's Act 1, Act 2. So this is actually just Act 1 of that same episode, What You Want. So the full episode here. This goes from the beginning of the episode all the way till the actual end fin screen. So this is the entire episode, like what the full storyboard would look like, all fleshed out into like one book, I guess you could say. The next one we're covering is the Phantom Menace, or sorry, the Fenton Menace, which also has a wild title card. Just to throw that out there. But to be honest, this one, the storyboard is really good, but because since the first half of the episode, you actually don't see any ghosts, because that's the whole point of the episode, is for it to be this ghost is just messing with Danny. So if you're looking at the storyboard without like the sound effects and like the animation, it's almost hard to tell that there's even anything happening to Danny, but he's just kind of going crazy. There are some cool shots I will throw up on screen for you guys, but they're mostly just kind of like slice of life shots. There is a really cool shot in the submarine though, where they find Youngblood's ship, but there's a lot of cool shots of just Danny with his family that are really cool to see, just all of them together, and they're really well done. Next up is the episode 13. This is Act 2, and episode 13 is about a biker ghost, kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde couple from the ghost world are trying to come into the realm of the livings through the Fenton ghost portal by a mistake of it actually being left open. And in that opening sequence, it's really cool because as Johnny is riding his bike super fast to get through the portal before it closes, you get to see ghosts like Ember, Skulker. I can't remember exactly who you see in that scene. I'm just off the top of my head, I remember that part so vividly. You see them also kind of like trying to see if there's an opportunity to get into the ghost portal, but him rocketing through there, he was able to make it through. But unfortunately, his girlfriend that was with him was not able to make it, so she gave him, I think, like her jacket, a ring, and some other items, like her earrings, I think, and she essentially put her spirit into those items. So when Johnny got out of the ghost realm, he had to then find a girl that he could swindle into actually putting on the ring, putting on the jackets, the earrings, and then as those items got put onto that girl, his girlfriend in the ghost realm would slowly start to possess the girl that is wearing all those items. So in the situation, he actually takes Danny's sister, the first girl he really sees, and tries to, sway her into starting to put those items on. I mean, realistically, he didn't even like ask her, he just like did it immediately, and as soon as she got like one item on, she just kind of fell for him, because that part of her that was the girlfriend being possessed kind of took the lead at that point. And this is Act 2. You get some really cool shots, and I think there's some cool shots of Johnny, but in my mind, Johnny was never really the interesting ghost in this episode. The more interesting ghost to me was Johnny's shadow that was actually a whole nother tangible spirit separate from him. And I can't really name any other ghost in the Danny Phantom world that were essentially two ghosts. There was almost like a darker spirit or entity that was attached to Johnny and his soul, even in the afterlife. And Johnny was considered unlucky. That's why his name was Johnny 13. I think that there's so much more lore to those two characters, being, like I said, that Johnny has this essential demon or really sinister spirit attached to his soul, even more sinister than him himself. And I like to believe that maybe that was something that even plagued his life when he was alive, and what gave him the notable characteristic of being so unlucky. I think that there's a whole nother like layer of lore to those two characters that I would love to see get explored. And maybe if Danny Phantom ever gets a reboot, it will be. But yes, there's some really cool shots of Johnny's sidekick, Shadow. So you also get to see Goth Tucker in here, which is actually a meme, so it's really cool to see the Goth Tucker appear outside the meme and in the actual storyboard, the originals for it. But that is actually it for all of the Danny Phantom content. But that is not it, guys. We still have more to check out. Like I said, this is going to be a full-blown video. These are the storyboards. These are the only ones I have of Disney. Actually, I have two Disney ones. This is the storyboard for Kim Possible. I did not watch a lot of Kim Possible growing up. I watched enough of it to remember the main characters' names and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna try to break down the episodes for this and stuff, but this comes from Kim Possible Season 1, Episode 6, I believe, and it is called Twin Factor. And it's interesting to see how Disney was doing their storyboards comparatively to Nickelodeon. So you can see this says Disney Television Animation, and theirs are like these single panels that are just like right and left rather than the three that we saw in all of the Nickelodeon ones. And also something I noticed is that the art style for the storyboards is significantly different from the final art style. Like, for example, here's a shot of Kim actually tracking Shigo, so she's following behind Shigo, like stalking her. And a lot of times with these storyboards, we give ourselves a lot of credit over here in America, like our shows are just 100% made by us. But a lot of times what happens here in the US, even with a lot of shows that we grew up with. They write the episodes here, they invent the characters here, they produce the show, they fund the show over here, and then they create the storyboards showcasing how the animation's going to roughly look, what the characters are going to look like doing those things. Again, it's all already scripted, but then they send all that information to an overseas company, usually in Asia, Philippines, Canada, and then they are the ones that actually take it from these storyboards and make it into the show that you see on television, the fully animated, colored, ready to go show. And not to say that this part isn't remarkably hard too, but often a lot of that, the entire process is credited to just the US aspect of it. And there are some studios that in the US do the whole process. And a lot of the early stuff, especially all the cell animated stuff, was all done, you know, in a lot of cases here in the US. But as we got into the digital era, more and more of that stuff started to be, you know, pushed off into other parts of the country that could produce this stuff faster in bigger amounts of quantity and also for cheaper. So I think the art style necessarily for the Disney ones maybe didn't matter as much because who Disney was paying was probably gonna, you know, change it drastically anyway. And then next up here, for any of my 80s and early 90s fans, these are actually all of the style guide images and comparison shots for Darkwing Duck. Much like the Fairly OddParents ones, this is more so they knew how to draw the characters, all the different, you know, facial expressions, different angles and stuff like that. So they have one for Gooselin, they have one for Launchpad, they have all the different characters, breakdowns of their designs, and all those different angles, like I said. And then also, they have different setup shots, like this one right here, you can kind of see as it's upside down, but this one right here, where it tells them what type of ink they need in those particular areas and what colors would be for their costume, which in most professional settings, they use like Pantone and like different types of paints that are like 100% accurate no matter who's using it. And then also in here, it has these style guide images, and for those of you guys who don't know what style guide images are, they are essentially the photos you see on products. Like for example, like if somebody was making a SpongeBob tin, or in this case a Darkwing Duck tin, these are the assets or the shots that they would be allowed to use by the brand in order to make that product. So all of these shots you see here on the tin, these are style guide images, essentially assets that were given from Nickelodeon to the company, in this case Tin Box Company, to make this tin. Depending on what country it is, how big the brand is, how big of a collaboration it is, you know, the style guide can be a little bit more flexible and they can do some other stuff outside of that, but it's fairly rare, and the most common licensed products are going to be style guide images. So that's all of this right here, and these came straight out of Disney's vault. One of the people that I met that I got a lot of the Catscratch stuff from, they also worked at Disney for a period of time, and they were a big fan of Darkwing Duck. They actually did not work on Darkwing Duck, but they got to sit and do some work in their actual archive room for about like 3 weeks, they said, and they were such a big fan of Darkwing Duck. They went through all the Darkwing Duck like archives, and they were so excited that they literally just started grabbing everything and just Xerox printing like sheets of it, and got all of this stuff and then had it in their garage and just been collecting it, or just kind of storing it for all these years until I ended up picking it up. So they just kind of like were like, hey, well, we have this too if you want. I was like, sure, I'll take it, we can throw that in, why not? So a little Darkwing Duck stuff as well too, and this is not really what I typically collect as well, so I might consider again trying to get back some of my funds via the Darkwing Duck stuff. I don't know for sure yet, but I did want to share it with you guys. Okay, so next up here, this actually came from an auction via my friends over at Pixel and also Retro Games Plus, which is a friend of mine you sometimes see in the flea market videos. His name is Chris. He also owns like a few game stores here in Southern California, and he actually came across a whole lot of production artwork for shows in the 90s that never became like, you know, that never actually took off or never actually happened. So I mean, a lot of them were, you know, because they never happened, that also means like most of them didn't have much of a fan base or a following. It's more of an oddity and obscurity for people that are interested in just the 90s animation culture, seeing some of these stuff that was kind of thrown to the side, or maybe some of the stuff didn't make it. I didn't pick up any of that stuff, but I did pick up some other stuff that's a little bit more my style that they also happen to have, because all the stuff was from the same artist, and that artist happened to also work on some small Nickelodeon stuff as well as some Scooby-Doo stuff. So this one we will check out right now together. This is like, I literally could have made this like probably 3 videos, guys, but I wanted to put it all in one video for you guys. If you guys haven't already, please, if this is your first time ever on YouTube, hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Even if you're a silent viewer who never comments, leave a comment down below letting me know what was your favorite part to check out in this video. It would mean a lot to me, and again, helps push this video out there. It makes an impact on the channel, and I would really appreciate it. So the first item I picked up in that show is this right here, and this is actually not from that original artist, and I still have not figured out exactly who made this painting, but this is a watercolor painting, and as far as I know, the closest signature and person connected to this topic was one of the background artists. So there's a good possibility that he was actually the one that did this painting. This is a painting for the series. Shout out to my guy in the comments that always says like X amount of days of asking for Angry Beavers, and I'm not gonna tell, you know, he might hear this, you guys will know. If he makes it to day 100, I will do a dedicated Angry Beavers video just for that guy. But until then, you know, you're just getting little small little peeks here. But this is a Angry Beavers painting here, so an amazing and iconic Nickelodeon show. One of the staples, I would say, of the original Nicktoons, but it's an often forgotten show when it comes to Nickelodeon doing like relaunches of like merchandise and stuff like that. During the 2010, 2011, 2013 era, there was a big push of Nicktoon stuff coming back, and then we saw that same thing as of the last like 2 or 3 years here, and you really haven't seen the Angry Beavers get a lot of resurgence content like with Rocco, Invader Zim, Rugrats. I mean, you've seen even Hey Arnold has gotten a lot of modern merchandise. In some cases, some of them have even gotten films like Arnold and Invader Zim, but Angry Beavers hasn't really quite got that treatment, unfortunately, considering I consider it in many ways along the same level as those guys. But this is a painting of Daggett and Norbert actually competing in a game of hockey, which I think is so fitting for them. And Daggett is a part of the LA Kings, which is a local hockey team here, and then Norbert is a part of the Detroit, I forget the Detroit Red Wings, I can't remember the name for Detroit, but the Detroit hockey team, and you can see them in the rink there, all the fans above there, and I'm like, the artwork is so well done, and like I said, I'm pretty sure, without being able to 100% confirm it, this is one of the people that makes the backgrounds in Angry Beavers. So this is essentially a possibly one-of-one parody drawing that they did for fun or as a commission for somebody who picked this up from them, showcasing almost as close to canon as it can get version of Norbert and Daggett in a hockey match wearing real-life hockey team jerseys. I mean, of course it's not canon, as I said, almost as close to as canon as it could be, because it was likely done by one of the actual artists that made the show, comparatively to just some general commission from an artist that's completely detached from it. So I would love to be able to find out more on this. If anybody has any information out there on this painting, let me know. But it is an original. This is a watercoloring painting. Behind the glass here, I've taken a look. I just have had trouble actually tracking down this particular sketch, and they didn't know a whole lot about it as well, besides that it was found in a storage locker. So that's that. Amazing. And then we have these guys here that I mentioned at the start of this video that I will be giving away absolutely free on my Whatnot stream to members of the Rep Pack. Again, my Whatnot link is down below. You can sign up for free. You get 15, actually I think $20 just for signing up, that you can use in my show or anybody else's shows. But you can also enter the giveaways that I do every week and possibly also win these. These are original hand-drawn production sketches from the new Scooby-Doo movies in 1971. So this is an actual used in production sketch of Scooby-Doo from 1971. That could be yours. You could have a piece of cartoon history in your possession for free. The shipping is even paid for as well. If you want to pick some stuff up, join in our little Whatnot community. We would love to have you. But even if you just want to sign up, check out a couple streams and enter the giveaway, you can. You are also welcome to do that. And I will also be giving away this one, this Shaggy Rogers sketch as well, also from 1971. So you will have Scooby and Shaggy, giving these away for free. Again, that information will be down below. Use my link and that will get you that coupon as well as get you access to those giveaways. But continuing on here, I do have one more Scooby sketch that I am going to keep for myself here. I might consider doing something with this one. I don't know yet, but for right now, I'm going to keep this one. But there is some more Nickelodeon stuff in here that I wanted to share with you guys, so let's take a look here. This right here, I just loved the artwork on this. This is not really animation related, but this is actually a bumper for the WB network, and this was for a promotion for classic Hollywood movies they were releasing. So this is actually James Cagney there, and this is a whole little bumper promo that they were going to animate around his picture as it transitioned into one of his nostalgic films during that time. And I just thought the art on it was really, really cool, and like the old-timey text and the camera equipment, the press-on newspaper ad, I just thought the whole thing was really cool, so I picked it up, and it was a good deal too. But this is the stuff that, you know, we're here to talk about. So these right here are incredible. These are all original sketch pieces and production storyboards for a Nickelodeon bumper that never actually got used. So I wish I could have gotten all of the pages, but unfortunately I was not able to get all of them. But I got one of my favorite ones, which is this one right here, and it has the Nickelodeon TV splat right there. See, and then underneath the TV you can see this guy bounces out, and this is a character called Spring Boy. Spring Boy, after doing a little bit more research, Spring Boy was a character they were trying to essentially make as an ongoing mascot in the Nickelodeon bumpers, but they never ended up going through with it. There was a lot of characters that appeared in Nickelodeon bumpers, but they were just in one bumper and then they were just gone the next time you know, the next bumper was a different character. But this was one that, for my information, they were trying to use as a character to transition TV Land to Nickelodeon, because at one point TV Land, in some areas, TV Land would transition into Nickelodeon, much like how we have time slots like Nickelodeon, Nick Jr., Nick at Night, and you know, sometimes Nick Jr. would be the morning and then Nickelodeon during the day, and then at the end, you know, it would just continue on. So there was a point where it would transition from TV Land, which played a lot of classic shows, you know, Three's Company, Sanford and Son, stuff like this, and then it would transition to Nickelodeon. So this was meant to be a character that kind of helped bounce the audience from TV Land to Nickelodeon, hence his name Spring Boy, because the bouncing part. But anyway, so you also get to see a rough sketch of Spring Boy down here, a essentially cut, never released character for a Nickelodeon bumper. Really, really cool. You also have this like duck character here, and to be honest, it's hard for me to completely break down the context of everything that's supposed to be happening here just off of the sketches. I can kind of put together a story slightly, but I'm sure there were some more assets to go with this to better explain everything. But all the original artwork is just incredible. Right here you can see there's this mad scientist bringing a bird to life, and you know, the Nickelodeon bumpers were often very obscure and wacky, and like the stuff that would happen to them just didn't make any sense at all, and that's kind of why we loved them, right? So from what I have like made out here from all of these pieces, this is my best adaptation guess of what is supposed to be happening here. So we have a Frankenstein guy. Okay, so remember the duck? Look at the duck. This is the duck guy up here, right? So if you look on his table, we have the bumper starts. We have this guy saying, "It's alive!" And then we see him on this like giant pedestal pyramid mountain. And you can see right here, the Frankenstein-esque character he is bringing to life is that bird. The bird gets up off the table. Caw-caw! Caw-caw! He starts flying into the sky. He flies into a window. He knocks over a big spring. The spring falls into some sunglasses, a hat, and into some shoes, some dentures, and then balls around in a thing of dust and becomes Spring Boy. And then that's Spring Boy right there. And that's the origin of Spring Boy. And then the Nickelodeon TV slams down on Spring Boy. He bounces, and then the TV bounces off, and he bounces off with it, and then we are a Nickelodeon. That is just my interpretation of what just happened, but I don't know. And it says, after they bounce away, it reveals the menu, I guess, coming up next, like showing what shows were gonna be on Nickelodeon now that you were transitioning to Nickelodeon. So that's my interpretation. And as a person who's watched a lot of Nickelodeon bumpers in my life, I don't think that that's out of the possibility of something they would have done. Like very obscure, strange stuff would what often happened to them that didn't make a lot of sense at all, but it was just fun and a good flex and stretch of the animation and creative muscles, I feel like, when Nickelodeon would make those bumpers. So that's everything, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I have to get shots of all this stuff so you guys can see them throughout this video. Thank you guys so much for you know, hanging out with me today and going through all this stuff. There's nobody else I would rather be hanging out and talking about all this stuff that I love and I know you guys love as well than you guys. So thank you guys for being here with me, all of you wonderful people, men, women, families, however you guys are watching the show. Thank you for being with me here. I appreciate you. Never forget that, and I hope I was able to give you guys a good insight into all the stuff. I tried my best with the amount of time I could and the amount of stuff that I had to share with you guys. So if you guys did enjoy the video, if you could hit the like button, I would appreciate it. Leave a comment again down below. Subscribe if you're new here. We have some big stuff we're going to be working on in 2026. This, I feel like we have been killing it the end of this year, 2025. I think 2025 as a whole was crazy. We went wild with SpongeBob stuff, and this was another video that, besides the Fairly OddParents thing, actually didn't really include that much of anything that involves SpongeBob. Not that I'm trying to steer away from that, because SpongeBob's always and still going to be my favorite, but 2026 I definitely want to diversify into some more of the other aspects of Nickelodeon that we didn't get to as much this year because of trying to hone in on getting a lot of the SpongeBob grails that we needed. And yes, next year I still got a lot we're going to be looking for, but I think we've really been doing a good job segueing into 2026, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the content. If you guys want to support the show further, you can join my Patreon for only $2 a month, and you can also become a member here on YouTube. Either one works. You get access to content that is not available anywhere else. In fact, I will be diving deeper down the line into some of this stuff as Patreon and members only videos, so definitely take the opportunity to check that out, and it helps immensely with making stuff like this and making preserving items like this possible. And again, if you guys want to enter to win those Scooby-Doo sketches or be a part of any of the stuff that we do live, go check out my Whatnot stream. It is down below. I'm sorry, I've lost my voice a little bit, it seems here. All that information is down below. Check out the Whatnot stream. Use that link when you sign up so you get access to all the different stuff I've talked about. And I'll see you guys in this video right here that I know you're gonna love. It's our most recent video. Go take a look, see what we are up to. As always, Rep Pack, I'll see you beautiful people in the next one. Adios and bloop.